Incidentally, the pedicab fellow had offered me 4 baht, which I agreed to, but I gave him 10. Just seemed fair. He didn't, I don't think, saw anything novel about it, except that I gave him more than he was entitled to. Recognize this watery area that I'd seen earlier, but now we're getting back into another huge complex or an area with huge temples and chedais and so forth. Now where I'm ultimately going are these two right here, and this one is the one that we just saw, I believe, off in the distance, and this is the one that will be left across the road to my left. I'm looking left across the street that I'll eventually cross to go to the other temple, but even there you can see in the background a temple, there a temple, everywhere a temple, and then the one complex I'm going to. But what these grounds were and for how long they were here is a darn good question. Certainly parks of this dimension would typify the European rulers, and one of the great places to spend an afternoon or a few hours in almost any large city in Europe. Here's the other one I'm going to go. That's what I think was probably sitting there. I'm always intrigued by a small, tiny bit of surviving beauty in the midst of nothingness. And this area is nothing. You wonder if it were, in fact, something of the Ayutthaya kings, if this was all heavily vegetated at one time and very park-like, like places we see in Europe. I'm not sure that there's any real need to go inside this one, since it all looks pretty much like what we've seen before. A little bit left on that one there. And this one is called Wat Mahathat. And if we don't see anything more interesting as I work my way down what I think is the entrance to the other one on the left, we won't go inside. Wat Ratchaburana. Wat Ratchaburana was built by the king, number 2, for his coronation ceremony. And 2 additional chedai were built on the site where Chao Yi died in a power struggle on elephants, which is an interesting thought. Apparently in the large chedai that we'll see, they did some archaeology study and discovered rooms, one of which was a red color mural on the walls, shaped with gold leaf and different gestures relating different style of Buddha image, like the walking Buddha, the meditation, etc. This one on the other side of the street is Wat Ratchaburana, and that we will go inside to see. Interesting that this one is in such good condition it almost looks like it's restored, and perhaps it is. Just wanted to look at the detail on the upper portion of this one. This building was severely damaged by the Burmese when they destroyed Ayutthaya. This, of course, would not have been a view available when it was in good condition, because there would have been, I believe, a roof. Just a view shot. Now we'll get a closer look at this before walking up the stairs. Dramatically preserved statues. That's pretty neat. Now notice how these two details mirror in design the two stones, pairs of stones that we saw at the other Wat. It had that diamond-shaped motif on the side. Let's take a closer look at this. All the prettier for the foliage, isn't it? This is a particular style here, with the hand raised. Sometimes there are two hands raised, with the hand pointing, the palm pointing out. Now some of the detail I see here actually looks like it's been carved onto a marble, but that may just be what it looks like. Certainly you can see there it clearly is cement, but it has a more marble type look to it. I wonder if it was painted. How pretty it looks though. This is interesting. It looks even steeper than the one I came up. Should be fun. Here's some photographs of ancient objects in the Chao Sampra National Museum in Ayutthaya. One can well imagine the Burmese stole or destroyed most of what they could get their hands on. But always when such things happen, people find ways of hiding stuff, often not to be found for centuries later. These may have been the trees that were symbolic, or symbols of obeisance by, for example, rulers in Laos and other surrounding countries to Ayutthaya's kings. I don't know whether these are the remaining colors or not. I kind of doubt it because the surface doesn't look smooth like it would have been when they had actually painted them. Buddha images. These look like amulets, but may not be. Here are royal utensils. These look more like decorations. Those may be maybe utensils. And these part of the royal regalia. It's an interesting looking crown piece, probably of gold. Otherwise, doesn't look like much more to look at that we haven't seen already. A little more detail left on this one up above. Stonework for the wall, not out of brick, but this stone's all looks like a volcanic pumice of some sort type. Here are the forces of time forcing it apart. Not the precision here of the Incas, who had to work in the really hard granite and basalt. But then this was to be immediately covered by plaster. One of the classic poses of Buddha has this hand, the right hand, just touching the ground, because it symbolized that Buddha's attempt to maintain his concentration and meditation as the devil tried to distract him. He touched the ground to give him that connection and solidarity. Now notice this stylization, which I can't tell you what it is, but I think you can gather from looking at the limbs of the legs how they appear to have no bones. And this was an intentional stylistic device to reflect the relaxation complete of Buddha. In sites like this, and I remember at Palenque looking at the carvings there that were lying in the jungle around mounds covered with dirt and foliage that were formerly structures, what the artists would have thought if they could now see what has happened to what they spent their skill and hours on. Would they be pleased? Would they be upset? Would they be nonplussed because they had done their job, and at the time it was done was the only time that was important, and it was done for the king and for Buddha? Always at ruins are these little places that have been set aside to stick the somewhat interesting remnants that exist. I remember at Coricancha in Cusco, Peru. I've seen it in, of course, different ruins in Rome and probably elsewhere. So I've seen these 5 wats, which was pretty much my goal for today. And so now I'll wander right down that street to the right, to that circled 45, which apparently is where there's lots of food stalls. See if I can find a place that looks comfortable to eat. And there the entryway, which probably looked far more grandiose in its day. But notice how that archway is made, presumably by having those bricks lay in against the form until it was the arch was completed and had its own stability with the cement and the design. Again, is this the European influence? There are just some pretty flowers I noticed alongside the sidewalk here. Very pretty, gentle color and design. How pretty that little white pistol or whatever it's called. Don't know what this old looking, may not be, but tranquil looking little parklet is. I walked down the other side, I think, when I was en route to the Wats. There's an interesting mechanism for keeping people out, decorative. Yeah, it looks like it would do the job. This looks like somebody's home. Very nice place it is. Lovely sliding electronic door. Maybe that's their guest house, or maybe it's a compound with a family of homes. Here, their little spirit house. Presumably this is the northeast corner. And there are the tokens. It should be the one spirit inside. That one inside should be the one that embodies the spirit that protects this land. And some pretty flowers.